No, this is a huge Democratic Party problem. If you look at Democratic cities, they are terribly run. They have incredibly high taxes. It is impossible to build, so the cost of housing... Let me finish. I'll give you a chance. Cost of housing is crazy in places like New York and Chicago.
Bill Maher did the unthinkable. He got CNN's Fareed Zakaria to admit Trump might have been. Right cue the dramatic music and clutch your pearls, because on Real Time with Bill Maher, something wild happened. CNN's very own Fareed Zakaria actually admitted on air that some of Donald Trump's policies were good for America. Yes, you heard that correctly. For a brief, glorious moment, the cable news matrix glitched. What unfolded wasn't your typical polite panel chat. It was more like an intellectual cage match. Maher came in, swinging, lobbing inconvenient truths, like verbal grenades, while Zakaria chuckled nervously through the fallout, probably wondering if his CNN keycard would still work in the morning. It was messy. It was raw. And it was pure gold. So buckle up, because we're about to unpack this rare, unfiltered blast of media honesty. And before we do, go ahead and smash that subscribe button for more savage commentary, hard-hitting truth bombs, and the kind of takes that leave the mainstream media clutching their pearls.
Trump wants to sell a visa. You get permanent residency. By the way, I looked this up, we are hardly the first country to do this. Doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. But, you know, I remember...
Yeah, we actually have a version of it. It's called, I think it's called the EB-5 or something like that. So it's fine to do it. I actually think maybe it's because I'm, very patriotic. I think 5 million, we should be charging 20 million, or, American citizenship is worth more than that.
I don't know about you, but this one seriously made me do a double take. Fareed Zakaria, yes. That Fareed Zakaria from CNN, the same network that practically hosts Trump roasting marathons on the hour, just gave Trump's golden visa policy a thumbs up. Plot twist of the year. We're talking about a guy who's critiqued everything from Trump's border walls to his burger choices. And now, here he is, handing out compliments like it's a clearance sale. But wait, it gets juicier. Zakaria didn't just say the $5 million pay-to-stay policy had merit. Oh no. He casually floated the idea of jacking it up to $20 million. Yep. His message was basically, if you're rich and want to live in America, open that wallet wide. Coming from someone who usually gives TED Talk-level sermons on equity and inclusivity, this take was rich pun 100% intended.
Now you're speaking Chicago language. I'm for it, but it's part of a bigger package on immigration reform. It's been 42 years since the last one. So I'm not against it, but it's part of a whole package.
Now hold up, I should have said this earlier, but let's give credit where it's due. Bill Maher is sneakily brilliant. Seriously, the guy's working with Jedi-level truth extraction skills. Just look at what he pulled off. Not one, but two. Hardcore lefties admitting on air that they actually liked a Trump policy. It was like watching a magician pull confessions out of a hat. And let's be real, Maher didn't just stumble into that moment. He orchestrated it. He set the tone with a chill. Hey, this one's actually smart. And just like that, the dominoes started to fall. Fareed Zakaria nodded. And then boom, even Rahm Emanuel, the ultimate Democratic power player, chimed in with, "It's been a long time since anyone proposed something like that." A long time, Rahm? Really? Makes you wonder what your party was doing all those years in power, too busy virtue signaling to come up with a policy that actually made sense? And here's the kicker. Watch Rahm go full savage and start calling out the woke nonsense in his own party. Now that's a plot twist no one saw coming.
There is a general rule. I had this when I was mayor. Safe streets, strong schools, stable finances. Focus on those three things and your city's gonna be fine. We've gone through 5 years where people became way too permissive of culture. They were all, which is why everything's locked up at Walgreens and CVS, and that is a disaster. Yeah. And our school, and I'll say this about our schools. I don't want to hear another word about the locker room. I don't want to hear another word about the bathroom. You better start focusing on the classroom.
It's starting to look like the left is turning on itself. And honestly, it's kind of entertaining to watch. Just so you're not jumping in blind, here's the setup. On Real Time, Bill Maher dropped a brutal stat. Chicago's mayor has a 6.6% approval rating. That's not just bad. That's maybe start questioning all your life decisions bad. And here's where it gets wild. Rahm Emanuel, former Chicago mayor and a master of political spin, didn't even try to polish that turd. Nope. He grinned and threw his own party straight under the bus. According to Rahm, the left has become so obsessed with performative culture, war nonsense, it's turning the whole movement into a joke, and worse, making it toxic. Then came the rant. And oh, it was glorious. Rahm basically begged the woke brigade to stop turning every locker room and bathroom into a political battleground, and get this, maybe refocus on things that actually matter, like education, classrooms, reading, math. You know, the basics. It was a rare blast of sanity, delivered like a mid-show mic drop. The irony? It took a Democrat lighting up his own side on HBO to say what millions of Americans have been yelling for years. And the best part? Rahm wasn't done yet, not even close.
We have the worst reading scores for 8th graders in 30 years. And nobody, not a governor, not a mayor, not a president, not a secretary of education is talking about it. We're all wrapped up. Look, in 7th grade, if I known that I could have said the word they and got in the girls' bathroom, I would have done it. Okay, we literally are a superpower. We're facing off against China with 1.4 billion people, and 2/3 of our children can't read 8th grade level.
As hilarious as this whole exchange is, and trust me, it's comedy gold, there's a darker truth lurking underneath. It's also deeply disheartening. Somewhere along the way, we got so terrified of offending anyone that we handed the steering wheel over to a fringe minority of hyper-ideologues. Wrapped in the language of progress, these activists have leaned on cherry-picked studies and flimsy research to push intrusive and often downright inappropriate agendas. Take the endless demands for access to women's bathrooms and locker rooms, all in the name of inclusivity. Let's be honest, we've thrown common sense out the window, abandoned long-standing values, and guzzled the ideological Kool-Aid like it's La Croix things that used to be obvious, like protecting women's privacy and safety, are now somehow controversial. Why? Just to placate the loudest, most extreme voices in the room. But here's the silver lining. It looks like even some of the left's top-tier insiders, people like Rahm Emanuel and Fareed Zakaria, are finally waking up. Maybe it's Trump. Maybe it's Bill Maher reluctantly stepping into the role of common sense referee. Or maybe it's just reality finally kicking the door in. Whatever the reason, this shift is long overdue and desperately needed. Because at last, someone is saying out loud what millions have been thinking all along.
If you look at Democratic states, you go look at New York versus Florida, okay? Roughly the same population. The budget of New York State is twice that of Florida. What do they have? Streets paved with gold? I live in New York. I pay the highest taxes in New York. You get nothing for it. And I think that is the image people have of the Democratic Party. Lots of taxes, lots of regulation, but nothing gets done.
Bill Maher didn't just get them to begrudgingly admit that Trump might have actually gotten something right. Oh no, he went straight for the jugular. He got them to turn on each other. It was like watching a political episode of Survivor, with Rahm Emanuel and Fareed Zakaria subtly and sometimes not so subtly tossing blame across the ideological battlefield. Just listen to how they start pointing fingers, basically throwing their own party under the bus for the mess we're all knee-deep in. Sky-high living costs, soul-crushing red tape strangling small businesses, inflation running wild, and taxes. So brutal they make you question every life decision you've ever made. One brutal hit after another. It was like a light bulb flickered on. Wait a second. Maybe we're the problem. What we witnessed wasn't just political theater, it was pure poetic justice. After years of preaching to the rest of the country about how to govern, the left is now cannibalizing itself in a glorious, chaotic spectacle of regret and blame shifting. And honestly, we're here for every delicious second of it. So grab the popcorn, because when even the architects of the chaos start questioning the blueprint, you know the narrative is falling apart fast.
The point isn't the rules. The point is the results. And the party has gotten way too focused on what the rules are. And I do agree with you on this. We have made it impossible to function as a city or as a state.
So here's the million-dollar question. Did Fareed Zakaria suddenly have an epiphany? Or has he known all along, quietly nodding from the sidelines while Biden was still at the wheel? Let's be real. For years, CNN wasn't just critical of Trump, it was basically ground zero for anti-Trump hysteria. We're talking skewed panels, echo chambers packed with Democrats, and the token Republican trotted out like stage decor. And don't even get me started on the so-called news reports they read more like scripted hit jobs, with Trump cast as the villain in every plot twist. And now, out of nowhere, Zachariah has this public moment of clarity. It makes you wonder, where was this energy when Biden was steering the country into a ditch? Was it professional loyalty, political pressure, or just strategic silence? Because let's be honest, either he's been willfully blind or conveniently quiet, and neither one is a great look. Sure, this sudden enlightenment might be timely, but it also smells a little too convenient. Maybe the truth isn't setting him free, maybe it's just finally catching up with him.
Take an example of this example. Here, obviously in LA, it took a fire and a natural disaster to make you realize, you know what, that rule's not that important. In Pennsylvania, a bridge collapse, all of a sudden we go, well, that environmental rule is just not important. We got to build a bridge. It's much more important. And I think the Democratic Party should take a look at it and say, we're going to be honest, like we did in 1994 with reinventing government. Everything is on the table. Nothing is safe.
And that right there is exactly what so many of us have been shouting from the rooftops for years. If the Democratic Party has any hope of staging a real comeback, one that actually connects with everyday Americans, they need to cut the political theater and get serious. That means putting everything on the table, ditching the fluff, and scrapping the policies that insult basic common sense. You can't fix a broken system by obsessing over pronouns or diving headfirst into performative activism. You're not winning back working-class voters by preaching ideological purity while ignoring the issues that actually matter: inflation, public safety, education, job security. People are exhausted. They don't want more lectures. They want real results. They want action, not social experiments. So yes, if Democrats want to claw their way back to relevance, they've got to break free from the echo chambers and start focusing on what actually matters to real people. Because common sense isn't partisan, it's just been MIA for way too long.
Is you refrain from making any purchases, either in stores or online, to shun fast food, getting gas for a full day. I know. That look on your face says it all. You're right. It's so fucking stupid.
In the end, Bill Maher just held up a mirror and the left did not like the reflection. With voices like Zachariah and Rahm starting to break ranks, the cracks aren't just showing, they're spreading fast if Democrats are serious about a comeback. It's going to take less theater, more truth, and a long overdue return to plain old common sense. That's a wrap for today, folks. If you enjoyed the ride, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and stick around for more bold takes, real talk, and the kind of commentary that makes the mainstream media sweat. Thanks for hanging out. See you in the next one.